John Emmett, first one on tonight. Good evening from the UK, he says, or afternoon or morning, wherever in the world the Fozy are. Friends of Sailing Illustrated. Christopher Gillingham and his wife Jane, wishing fair winds to all of us and Bravo Zuluing, if that's a word.
Yes.
Cole Brauer. Warren Schasser down in Brisbane and Oz checking in. Hello, Warren. Gordon Smith in Denmark. Ed Worley down in SoCal, and lots of others as we are on our way for show 692 today. Live from Studio B here at the Beach Street Yacht Club. Joe Holtzman in Estes Park, Colorado. Rick Bannerow from sunny New Jersey.
Wow.
Fog Machine, a.k.a. Amadeus, a.k.a. Lance Burke, saying hello from sunny and cool San Francisco. It is sunny today.
Yes.
Jared DeYoung in SoCal, as we get this one through the starting line. Alan Long in cold northeastern Ohio, Fritz Mueller in Miami, and many others checking in. Welcome to all of you for our show number 692. Julie, we're closing in, as we say.
I know.
Well, probably far too often, on show number 700. Here's what I'm thinking.
Yes.
We'll ask the Fozy what they think. I'm thinking that we have a Zoom panel for show 700 of our Super Fozy. And I'm going to try to record, finally, my father, who's widely considered as the inventor, the creator of the 720 rule, originally the 1080 rule, and see if I can get him, maybe not live, but he's 90-something now, get a recording of him and how that all came about, and then I can edit it down to something. I mean, you know him.
Yeah, that'd be all right. He'd be good.
He makes me look like a kindergartner when it comes to talking, right? So does my mom. I guess I got it from both of them. Jamie Hutchison in Venice, Florida. Hello, Jamie. Nice to have you on. Nice to have everybody on. Julie, I trust you're well.
I am, interestingly enough.
Any hot tips?
I've been hosting some German visitors and have reminded myself how nice it is that they speak a lot of English and that I should be speaking more German.
He's a colonel in the Army, isn't he?
Yeah, about to be.
About to be. Big deal.
In the Air Force.
This one in the Air Force.
Yeah.
And the Luftwaffe.
Yeah.
Luftwaffe.
No, he's doing very well.
Is he one of your late great husband's relatives?
Yes.
Nice to see him. Nice family. Nice couple. And
oh, great. And their kids are fabulous.
what, 4 and 1?
And 7 months.
Not even 1. We are live, as we said at the top of the show, Studio B here, and a beautiful day in San Francisco. It is cool, but hell, it's only March 8th. Welcome to all of you, including Clayton Embley, who's in the boat shop. And thanks for your bourbon, Clayton. We'll get around to drinking some of that. Bob Walker is in North Texas. I hope he is avoiding the fires as well. And let's get this one on the road. We'd like to start with Bravo Zulus these days, as you all know, by the suggestion of several of you to get us off to a sailing start. Steve Atkins just watched Cole B live stream replay of her finish. Very cool. And Greg Phillips checking in from the Gold Coast of Oz. As we start with we'll get to Cole in a moment, but a Bravo Zulu to Jordi Jammer and Nora Brugmann, probably was a German name originally with a double N. They are Spanish, and they've just won the 470 Worlds.
Of course, Jordi Jammer and Nora Brugmann would love to have seen out the race on the water, but the breeze and the waves were too big for that. But even so, a really well-deserved gold medal for the Spanish on home waters.
We are finally 470 world champions. We've been so close many times, and obviously we are extremely happy with the week. Yesterday we knew you don't get too many opportunities like this, and it was a long wait, but at the end it came at the best moment.
We still have a lot to do and a lot of work to do, and we're excited about it, but it feels amazing to be able to achieve this title here with the team and with Jordi. It feels really special.
So at the end of an amazing week at Club Nautic Saranal, we have Spain winning gold, a surprising silver for Great Britain, and bronze for Japan. An absolutely amazing week of competition in a range of conditions and a great start to the Olympic season.
Yeah, cool stuff. And as John Emmett was saying, a bit of a surprise that Great Britain, what a strong sailing country GBR is, but they took the silver.
Yep.
Look at how tall Twiggy, you saw her on the podium. Women crewing, big, tall women crewing in the 470, which now, of course, is mixed doubles. It's a co-ed class, one man and one woman. Greg Phillips checking in from Oz, Graham Sweeney from Scotland, I guess. Is that where you are, Graham? Normally at home in Scotland. Ted Ryman checking in from Cape Town. Great to have you all on, as always.
Indeed.
See, nobody on from Sweden yet. Julie Ahrens, who is not Swedish, but she is in Cleveland, checking in. You know who that is, Julie? Julia?
The new Prime Minister, I guess, whatever he is.
Well, he's been Prime Minister for a couple of years. His name is Ulf Kristersson.
Yeah, but they...
And he is representing the country of Sweden, which is the new member
of NATO.
OTAN, of NATO, depending upon whether you're French or English. Mm-hmm. NATO, and that's putting weapons on Russia's border, which is not making Mr. Putin too happy. This gentleman was at our president's State of the Union address last night in Washington, D.C. Next, John Emmett says, is Finland. Yes. I think Finland's already joined.
Yes.
Haven't they?
Yes, I think so.
I think they have too. So we'll press on here with my least favorite topic, Julia.
Yeah, but
Least favorite topic.
But you can't stop talking about it.
I can't, and I'm not going to because it's croutonic. I don't care if we stay on daylight time or stay on standard time, but we go on Sunday, and here in the USA and beyond, we spring forward. So we got to change our clocks. I have to figure out how to change my clock in my car. About the time I figure out how to do it, it's time to change it back.
If you read the instructions, it'd be shorter.
I'm a male, and I can't be bothered to take my instruction booklet out of the glove box. It's a BMW. Try to find through it. It's thick. The Germans and their instructions.
That has an index. It's perfectly easy to do.
I know how to do it. But we're going to spring forward here in the USA. This is a headline from an article in the New York Times today. Switching the clocks twice a year isn't just annoying. I think they were talking to me.
Yeah.
It's deadly. And the article went on. I'm not going to talk about it. I can't believe it's that deadly, although statistically, traffic accidents go up, heart attacks go up on Monday, the day after we go forward or backwards. But the annoying thing for me is then everybody around the world trying to watch this show, trying to figure out their own local time zones vis-a-vis us.
Right.
Bermuda also goes on daylight time or summertime. Mexico, seguro que no. Mexico does not. Since 3 years ago, they stopped changing their clocks. They have locked the clocks. Mm-hmm. They're smart in Mexico. What about Canada? Well, most provinces, as well as the territories of Nunavut and the Northwest, will move their clocks ahead 1 hour with us. Yukon and most of the Saskatchewan keep their clocks the same year-round. They sound like Australia. Mm-hmm. Yukon made the switch for the last time in March 2020, and standard time is now standard, they could have said, instead of permanent. So that's Canada. Oh, Canada. What about Great Britain and Europe? Well, they do it, but at a different time. They do it in the EU by Directive 2000/84/EC, European Community, setting out the obligation on all member states to switch to summertime on the last Sunday of March. So they don't do it for a few more weeks. And then they switch back to their standard time, winter time, as they call it, on the last Sunday of October. So after they go after we do, and they go back after we do.
They're also a little further north is the rule, so that doesn't affect them.
I mean, Spain's not. Spain's the same latitude as New York. So, it's where it doesn't make much difference is the equator.
Oh, and Hawaii. I mean, they don't change anyway.
Well, and Hawaii does it because they're smart. Your favorite state.
It is.
But I digress, because now what about Australia? To really make things confusing, what about Australia and New Zealand?
I know.
Well, New Zealand and parts of Australia will get an additional hour on Sunday, April 2nd, when they go off summertime. So they go off at a different time than we do and the Europe does. So it becomes very, and of course, Australia is just a mess like Canada. They some do, some don't, some go they even have half hours, don't they? It's different. We love the Australians.
I just check the computer. You can tell.
Well, I agree, for sure. What are the comments? So there's Commodore Harrington. I'm hoping to tune in next week from Barcelona. When do I log in? You will be next week. You're in that period, Claire, when we are on daylight time and you're not. So you'll be +8 to us in Barcelona. Normally it's +9 to the continent, but you'll only be +8 next week. So a 1300 would be 2100 on the continent. So you got to go through all that mental gymnastics. And having lived in Europe and in New Zealand and Australia, I sort of got used to it, even though it keeps changing. Do you know who started all this madness? Who is that, Julia?
I don't know.
Who do you think started this madness? Was
Robert
it a Brit?
Cleveland. Was
it an American? Was it a Canadian? It was entomologist George Hudson.
I was worried about the bugs.
He was worried about studying his bugs. He's a Brit who emigrated to New Zealand, lived just after the AC0, America's Cup Zero, 1867 to 1946. And Mr. Hudson is credited with proposing modern-day daylight saving time. A bloody Kiwi! His shift work job gave him leisure time to collect insects and led him to value after-hours daylight, like a lot of sailors do.
Yes.
Okay. In 1895, he presented a paper to the Wellington Philosophical Society proposing a 2-hour daylight saving shift.
What a good idea.
A 2-hour shift. And after considerable interest was expressed in Christchurch, he followed up with an 1898 paper. Long story short, he and some crouton in the UK really, they pushed this thing forward, and that's how we got daylight time here in the States. And of course, Austria and Germany adopted it during World War I to save coal. Mm-hmm. And the U.S. said, well, they're doing it, we got to do it. And it's been on and off ever since. You remember, Julia, when we were on daylight savings time year-round for a while?
Mm-mm.
We were. Back in Clark Chapin, somebody else, 74, something like that. And it was so unpopular because it made the kids, getting kids ready for school in the morning in the dark and yada, yada. I don't care what we do. I just wish we'd stop switching. You know what they could do?
What?
They could do what I did to the St. Francis Yacht Club Stag Committee the other night.
Yes. That was lovely.
My committee, half of them wanted to start at 6 o'clock at night. We have a meeting at the third Thursday of every month. Half of them wanted to start at 6:30. And there was great reasons for both. Some people drive, some people want to go home or whatever.
Yeah. And it was really evening.
So they wanted to have a show of hands, and they were going to take a vote. I said, this is the chair's prerogative. We are going to start at
6:15.
6:15. I fixed them. And we fixed ourselves here because this show, next Tuesday, and for the next, 6 or 7 months, we will be starting still at 1300 Pacific, notwithstanding its Pacific daylight time, but we continue to stay. We experimented with 1200 for a while.
Yeah.
We're staying on 1300 Pacific, which is 2000 UTC for the maybe the foreseeable future for the time being until we switch back in bloody hell in October. So that's the story of that. And Julia, may I ask you, what are we celebrating today?
It's International Women's Day.
It is indeed. And I had some clues here. You know, it started in Germany. This was a socialist movement. Frauentag in Deutschland in the 8th of Mars, 8 Mars, 1914, was where this International Women's Day started. There was another clue. She's not quite Rosie the Riveter, but that looks like a Ken Doan dress. Now, how do I know? My wife is a big fan of, or was anyway, Ken Doan dresses. Mm-hmm. Ken Doan is Australian, isn't he?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Nice artist, nice stuff. And it is indeed what we're celebrating today, International Women's Day. It's an annual affair on March 8, 2024. Joe Holtzman, I dedicate this slide to you, because it's about the Socialist Women's Conference back in 1910. That's the earliest version, was reported on a Women's Day organized by the Socialist Party of America in New York City back in 1909. That inspired German delegates to go forward with their own special Women's Day organized annually, but they set no date. The following year, they saw the demonstrations and commemorations of International Women's Day across Europe, and then the Russian Revolution in 1917, yada, yada, yada. It's been going on since internationally, since it was promoted by the United Nations in 1977. And again, I donate that to my right-wing Republican friends like Joe Holzman, who's probably so, and others of you who will not be amused. But we have 25 inspiring quotes from Women's Day, but we don't have, this is a long show. We got a lot of great videos. So instead of doing that, Julia,
you're going to just do one.
I thought we'd do one. And do you remember where it came from? I showed you in the pre-show. From Jody.
Jody.
So Jody Shields came up with today's International Women's Day quote. Today is International Women's Day. It was supposed to be yesterday, but they took too long to get ready. A sexist would say.
Oh, gosh.
Huh? You laughed your hiney off when I showed you that in the pre-show.
That's because I'm always on time.
You are. You're down here an hour before the show now. Thank you, Jody Shields, for that. And if anybody, Julia, if you want to give him a finger wag, you can. I thought it was funny.
It's not worth a finger wag.
Okay. Good point. Very good point. And thank you all. We also celebrate you every show day, in fact, every day of the week. Thanks for your support. Those of you who are patrons who have joined us, or will join us, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated, and give us a few bucks a month, because this is what, Julia? Viewer
supported
media. Indeed it is. Thank you very much for your support. Let's get on with another Bravo Zulu. This, of course, our show theme today, Cole Brauer, whom we've been following now for a couple of months, thanks to several of you who were pushing us back in January. Why aren't you following Cole Brauer? I didn't know who she was. But a lot of people now have cottoned on and have been following her and celebrating her, particularly in American media, particularly women and women sailors around the world. She, in her hat there, she seems hardly like a wild feminist, but has been inspirational for everybody, men, women, and I think especially young women, but probably young men too, boys and girls. The wild feminist on her hat, she did it, you did it. And we've been following her since she rounded the Cape Horn in January. She from Booth Bay, Maine. Maine is what's the word I want? Is claiming her. That's the word, claiming her.
Yeah.
Rhode Island is claiming her. I think she's originally from Hawaii, or maybe spent some time out there with her family. But she's the real deal. As you all know, who've been following her on her Instagram and beyond. People magazine ran this thing in January, this photo that she took, and that really launched, at least in our country, mainstream media following for Cole. Cole Brauer Sailor Cole Brauer is making history as the first U.S. female to race solo across the globe. It's a dream come true, at least solo across the globe via the 3 big capes. Can you name those capes, Julia?
Horn.
The Corn of South America. That's the last one. What's the one before that? Australia.
Yeah.
Cape Lewin.
That I never remember.
The southwest corner
Yeah.
of Australia. I've been down there when we were living in Perth and Fremantle.
Yeah.
Cape Lewin, where the Southern Ocean technically meets the Indian Ocean. And then before that, of course, is the Cape of Good
Hope.
down by Ted Ryman, South Africa. So that's really the qualifier, is that she's the first American woman that's done all 3 capes, not through one of the canals. So Bravo Zulu tour, she's getting a lot of mainstream coverage, including NBC News in this country. And, I've watched all these videos and read the articles and curate for the best. I hope I've done the job for you all so you don't have to read them all. Sailor Cole Brauer makes history as the first American woman to race solo around the world. Again, not quite true, but close enough. The 5'2" powerhouse placed second out of 16 sailors who competed in the Global Solo Challenge, a circumnavigation race that started in A Coruña, Spain, with participants from 10 countries, half of whom didn't finish. Aboard her 40-foot racing boat, First Light, 29-year-old Cole Brauer just became the first American woman. She finished yesterday, Thursday, to race nonstop around the world by herself. The New York native, so New York's claiming her too, pulled into A Coruña, Spain on Thursday after a treacherous 30,000-mile journey that took 130 days.
That sounds still incredible.
She thanked a cheering crowd of family and fans who had been waiting for her on shore. Quote, "This is really cool and so overwhelming in every sense of the word," she exclaimed before drinking champagne from her trophy. The 5'2" eyes, I don't know if she has eyes of blue, powerhouse placed second out of 16 avid sailors who competed in the Global Solo Challenge, a circumnavigation race that started in A Coruña with participants from 10 countries. The first of its kind event allowed a wide range, not quite the first of its kind event either, but close enough, wide range of boats to set off. Now, this was interesting. They did it as a pursuit race. They let the slower boats start first and the faster boats, by estimation, start later in a pursuit race. The set off in successive departures based on performance characteristics. Nicely put, NBC. Brauer started on October 29, sailing down the west coast of Africa over to Australia and around the tip of South America before returning to Spain. Brauer is the only woman and the youngest competitor in the event, something she hopes young girls in and out of the sport can draw inspiration from. Now, Julie, you would have said from which young girls can draw inspiration, but you went to Stanford.
Never mind.
It would be amazing. Let me go back where I don't want the video yet. It would be amazing if there was just one girl that saw me and said, "Oh, I can do that too," Brauer said of her history making sail. Now, control room, may we see the video, the first of several videos from Inside Edition.
She made it. Cole Brauer is now officially the first American woman to race solo around the world. The 5'2" powerhouse sailed 30,000 miles over 130 days. So how did she celebrate making history? With a champagne shower.
She did it. This was the inspiring moment Cole Brauer became the first American woman to sail around the world alone. 29-year-old Cole joyfully waved flares as she sailed full speed into port in Spain, where she began her grueling journey through the world's most treacherous seas 130 days ago. She waited offshore for dawn to break so she could come into harbor at First Light, which is also the name of her 40-foot yacht. And there were wild celebrations with her family and her support team the moment she stood on dry land for the first time since October 2023. Throughout her journey, she kept her 450,000 fans informed of her progress on social media, including the harrowing moment she was tossed across her cabin, badly bruising her ribs. She tells Inside Edition there was only one moment when she thought she might have to give up. Some vital equipment failed, and she wasn't sure she could fix it. Her mom talked her out of quitting.
Most mothers would be like, "It's okay, honey, you can stop. Like, it's fine, you can give up." And my mother was like, "You're not stopping. There's no way. Like, we don't stop."
What's it like to live on the 40-foot vessel on the high seas? Cole gave us an exclusive look inside her cramped cabin.
This is my bed. I did not make my bed this morning. It's really comfortable, actually. The food is in these bags, so you just add boiling water to it. It's actually quite good. Each one of these bags is a meal.
She says she hopes her epic solo journey will inspire other women to aim for historic firsts.
After docking, Cole said the first thing she wanted was a fresh croissant and a cappuccino, and she definitely earned that.
Shower.
Yeah, I think warm shower would have been it too, Julia. I agree. There's some comments rolling in here. We'll go back. There's a lot of timing, about somebody called it a TTTT, not an AAAA like Alistair's.
Yeah.
Tom's tantrum about time or something. Tom's terrible time tantrums. Thanks, Gordon Smith. You're a big.
Absolutely true.
You're a big help. I do have a tantrum about it, but is she the inspiration for Lee Power? Thank you, Stingray. But back to a comment here, Rick Andrew Pindar, have you signed her up for the Magenta Project, the esteemed project that Andrew's a part of and others of you to promote women's sailing and yacht racing? Blake Middleton, Coach Middleton, is saying that she attended the University of Hawaii and raced on their sailing team. So she is a rainbow. Vanero confirms that. Rick says that's where she started to sail. So probably Hawaii claims her too. Nice stuff. What else here? We have, in addition to that nice video, we have NBC. This is not NBC's take because I didn't want to risk getting a copyright strike. But this is her PR people's outtake from her discussion, her interview with NBC News here yesterday morning on our Today Show, the big morning show here. In fact, I think it's, I don't know, is Today Show the biggest, or is Good Morning America, or not that it matters? The morning show.
Yeah.
Do you watch those?
I do.
So, which one do you watch?
CBS.
Oh, Croutonic. Those liberals.
No, they're not. They've adjusted to being.
The network's lost its way since Walter. I'm sorry, I cut you off. They've adjusted to what?
To being neutral.
Oh, Julia. Okay, enough of that. But she was interviewed on the Today Show, which is one of our big three morning
That's NBC.
shows. Yeah, it's the NBC. It's the big four morning shows because Fox has that, Fox and Friends. That may be the biggest show now. Who knows? But regardless, why do we digress about that? This is an excerpt, an outtake by her media team from, and it's an important, cool segment, I think, maybe the best of that whole NBC interview. Here.
It's a fully male-dominated world, and I think that it takes a lot of strength to actually push and try to strive into this industry. And, you know, I really want women to understand that it's possible. You have to go through a lot of, you know, bad talk and people treating you poorly and getting paid significantly less, but in the end, if we, you know, it's all a numbers game. If we can all kind of work together and come together, I really think that we can be part of the industry.
Well, Cole, we're going to say that you should get paid.
You're petite, but you aren't dainty.
Yeah.
But it is really a male-dominated sport.
Yeah.
What is your...
You're 100% right. It's a fully male-dominated world, and I think that it takes a lot of strength to actually push and try to strive into this industry. And, you know, I really want women to understand that it's possible. You have to go through a lot of, you know, bad talk and people treating you poorly and getting paid significantly less, but in the end, if we, you know, it's all a numbers game. If we can all kind of work together and come together, I really think that we can be part of the industry.
Well, Cole, we're going to say that you should get paid because what you did was a feat, and all the young girls are watching right.
Okay, it's sort of a rough ending there,
Yeah.
as you see. But as I said, that wasn't NBC. That was her media team. You know, they've got their hands full. She's doing interviews left, right, and center. But
Right.
I agree with Clark Chapin. I like this quote. I really want women to understand that it's possible. You have to go through a lot of bad talk. People treat, and she was treated poorly. They said she was too light and too small for Vendée Globe.
You'll never make it.
But she is sailing in the next Vendée Globe. We have an interview confirming that in a moment. But in the end, it's all a numbers game, and if we can work together and come together, I really think that we can do better for the industry and indeed for the sport. So I think she obviously deserves a lot of credit, and
Absolutely.
a lot of people are tuning in. She's the best thing that's happened to sailing in a long time. I think we've actually in sailing have done a pretty good job, not a perfect job, but I think Andrew Pindar would confirm that we as sailors and as a sport, as John Emmett points out, we're now 50-50 in terms of women's participation in the Olympics. Now, we were pushed into that by the IOC and others, but, you know, we're making progress and we need to keep working at it, right?
Right.
Right, Julia?
Right.
We like to show you this tracker. 2 boats have now finished. You see up here on camera 4, she is now in A Coruña as well. She did 100, and you know she's going downhill probably from this point in. She's going 100. She went 100 and almost 60 nautical miles in the last 24 hours before she finished at 07:23. She waited offshore for the first light, name of her boat, as they pointed out in that video, on yesterday, the 7th of March at 07:23 UTC, which was 08:23 local. So Bravo Zulu Tour, nice stuff. Everyone's proud of her. Everybody's happy for her. She
Absolutely.
got a trophy. And we always show you these timings to show you that she did finish behind Philippe Delamare. Philippe, I guess. I believe he's French, in Mowgli. And he finished, March 7th. He finished Feb 24th, so that had been 6 days, 13 days, almost 2 weeks ahead of her.
Mm-hmm.
And she is at least a week ahead of the third place, Andrea Mura, the Italian, on Vento di Sardegna. Sardinia, we would say, but Sardinia in Italia.
Mm-hmm.
Mowgli was dominant. Yep, John Emmett, totally agree. Blake Middleton knows more about this. Cole's media team leader, Lydia, who's been in some of this media now in the last few, also works for Sail Magazine. Did a great job of helping keep Cole's updates coming throughout. Indeed, she did. And I didn't know Lydia until just in the last couple of days, looking at her videos, and Bravo Zulu to both of them, because the media was just as important as her performance.
And maybe more.
And good point, Julie.
Yeah.
Okay, now we have another video here. This from, because I was telling you, Maine is trying to claim her as well, and as well they should. But here's a nice video from Maine.
Maine-trained sailor Cole Brauer making history today as the first woman to race solo, nonstop, and unassisted around the world. On October 29th, she set off from Spain and arrived back just yesterday, finishing the challenge after 130 days at sea. Her boat was part of a fleet of 16 that took part in the race, but she was both the youngest and only woman participant. Brauer was actually partially trained here in Maine. Her family lives in Boothbay Harbor, and she got her start in competitive sailing while working for the junior sailing team at the Boothbay Harbor Yacht Club. What?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
How does that
I
work
have no
exactly?
words.
Like, how do you continuously, what are the rules around it?
Listen, you were asking the wrong people.
I don't know. That's cool. Either way,
It is
it's
really
wild.
neat.
You know what I find? So sailors and pilots are obviously very attuned to the weather. Like they're like a top echelon.
Yes.
Top echelon of
Yes.
of being into weather.
I think of my cousin Wayne, who's a merchant marine, who's always checking in to see if your forecast is accurate.
Oh, I like the way you said that. All right.
Okay, I kept that in for obvious reasons.
Yes.
Pilots, and you can. I used to teach sailing when I was a kid, as Clark knows and
Yeah.
Bill Holtzman knows, and I taught literally hundreds of people how to sail. And you could always tell when you had a pilot in the boat, because he or she instinctively knew when to luff up, when to head off, how to keep, trying to teach somebody to sail upwind and keep the boat right on the jib on the verge of luffing. They understood stall. They understood all of that, and they were instinctively very good. I thought the gentleman's comment was superb.
Yes.
And I thought her reaction was also typical. I mean, people are gobsmacked.
Yes.
They're amazed, as we all are, frankly.
I think that what always gives me pause, you're in second place and you only have 3,000 miles to go.
Well, as Clark pointed out, the gentleman who won was in a slower boat and started way out ahead of her. And you're really, remember Larry said in the wind gods, it's all in the hands of the wind gods, or a lot of it is. Some of it's luck, some of it's skill, and some of it's in the hands of the wind gods. But cool stuff. One more video, and this with an interview with a German television station, or yacht. I think it's The Yacht or Das Yacht or Yacht Capital. I'm not sure who did this, because again, her Lydia, her media person, took it and put it up on her Instagram. But I thought it was one of the better interviews.
How does it feel to be back ashore after 130 days?
It feels pretty good. It doesn't feel like I've been gone for 130 days. It's like I'm just getting back into the routine of being on land.
What was the toughest part of your circumnavigation?
There was a There's a couple tough spots, but I really think that probably just being away, you know, you're missing out on like a bunch of things. You're missing out on dinners with your friends and your families, and that was probably the most difficult part. Just like not having your people, your friends, your family around.
What's the next goal? Is it the Vendée Globe?
Of course. I mean, there's going to be a lot of things in between, but the main goal has always been the Vendée Globe in 2028. That's always it.
Okay, I thought her reaction, what did you miss? You talk about, and her reaction was very human and very down to earth and probably spot on. What did you think?
I agree. I admire her for being able to do it solo. I just couldn't do it solo. I need a little.
You couldn't. You'd be a wreck out there by yourself.
100%.
You don't like being alone upstairs for more than about 5 minutes. Hey, Tom, come up here and fix my computer. Your computer's fine, Julia. No, you. Hey, Tom, come up here and but my morning lady made us some more, what do you call those, eggs? Those
deviled eggs?
Deviled eggs. Come up and have a deviled egg with me. Bring me my mail. Come out here. The Fozy need to call you and keep you company up there. Julia, I don't know how we'd get along without you, but fantastic stuff. And comments rolling in here. Yeah, pilots do have a good reason, Steve Brewer, to recognize the stall. Just one more note here. Apropos all of this, I didn't realize this. I looked this last night, I guess. I looked to cut our YouTube, one of these things, just to talk about when we started covering it. And then I noticed that our show, 2 shows ago, 690. Now, this is off of YouTube, not off of Facebook. We get a lot of views on Facebook. We don't get that many views on YouTube because we haven't promoted it and people like to watch it on Facebook, yada, yada. 1.7 thousand views of our show just 2 days ago. And of course, what that means is that people have been Googling.
Yeah, and sharing.
Searching. Well, maybe sharing, but they've been searching on their own. These are people, not the Fozy.
Right.
For Cole Brauer, and we are one of the first things that pops up.
Good.
Sailing Illustrated. In fact, I was kind of amazed by that too when I Googled. So there it is. And by comparison, you can see a show from the show before had 162 views. This again on YouTube. This is not our total viewership by any means, as Clark Chabin knows. You know what our biggest show ever? On YouTube, not on, but again, the power of search and YouTube, which is owned by Google, is the second largest search engine in the world.
Yes.
You know what I use it for? Recipes. Well, you thought I was going to say porn. Huh?
Yes.
You did. You think I search porn on YouTube? They don't have any porn on YouTube. It's all cleaned up. Now, on the internet's a different deal. How would I know? I wouldn't have any idea. But there's 162 views. And also, if you search on Sydney Hobart, we are one of the first things to pop up because of all the coverage we've given it, I guess. Over the years, 3.2 thousand views for our Sydney Hobart preview show, a couple, 3 months ago now.
Yep.
Okay, bravo Zulu, Cole. You did it. She did it. We're all really, really proud and happy for her.
And look forward to having you with us one day.
Yeah, we will. Several of you, including and especially Julie Ahrens, has been bugging me, and I appreciate the bugging, Julie, don't get me wrong, to get her on the show. And I got to give her a little time, all the mainstream media to try to get a hold. We'll let her wait till she's kind of settled down and the media have settled down.
Right.
And we will endeavor to get her on here for a long, our long form interview. We'll go out for an hour and a half sometimes. Sometimes longer with guests, not just with us gas. Not just with us gas bagging, Julia.
Yes.
Speaking of gas baggers, although he has meaningful content with every one of his presentations, we are ready for our Coach's Corner, courtesy of our super Fozy John Emmett checking in. This is about your body, his body, all of our bodies.
Hi, Tom, Julia and all the Fozy. We start the journey here in East Grinstead. I asked you to think perhaps what are the things that you need to do as part of base training, and one is definitely to look after your body. You only get one. As I say, I'm here in East Grinstead, and this little cul-de-sac actually hides JM Body Care, very well hidden in the roundhouse. Cannot really recommend them enough. It's the only place that allowed significant progress on my right hip, which is still very bothersome, but actually the range of movement is getting closer and closer to my left, so it's going in the correct way. I must admit, I always have mixed feelings turning up here, because I know it's definitely a good thing, big picture. I also know it's going to hurt like hell. Janice doesn't actually know I'm coming in with the video camera, so we'll see how this goes. But yeah, it's all hidden away, actually walking distance from the farm, and I make a big point of trying to pop in here when I'm doing those airport runs, just to try and take good care of my body. I think, yeah, that regular maintenance is just so important. So I'm going to turn the camera off soon, because I'm going to take my clothes off. But here we go. You're in my vlog today.
Oh, right.
I don't know if you could.
Not even in it yet. The camera is something going somewhere else.
There we go.
Now I'm here.
With a face shot, and then the new couch / torture chamber. So I'll leave you there. One of the most controllable things is, of course, the equipment, and you never want to be let down by your equipment. So start of season, I'm here at Sailing Charnsley to pick up a couple of new devotees. So, just like Christmas. Something I've never done before. I've got an unboxing video, just like Christmas. So trying to get all the little jobs done. Just arrived at the academy, and nice big parcel. So we'll see what we've got in here. Just like Christmas. All these things, marginal gains. Got a lot of packing. Okay, so Morton. Really good fuel. So we've got the drinks here. So you just mix them, one sachet, one of these, absolutely perfect. Couldn't be simpler. Make a nice little gel in your tummy. They've actually tested that with MRI, so much more friendly. And then actually the good old-fashioned gel. So these things take on the water, and that should keep me going for the next few events. So yeah. Thank you, Morton. It's all part of the plan. The plan was actually to do some weight training in January and video that for the Sailing Illustrated show. You may have guessed the reason I didn't do that was because after Argentina I was in constant pain with my shoulder, and rather than continue to train in Australia and Athens, I tried to have a rest to let things recover. Fortunately, still in a bit of pain, so as a coach, first thing you need to do is actually diagnose what the problem is, then you can treat it. So I'm here in Bournemouth at the chiropractic school, and we're having a look at my right shoulder.
Excellent, lovely. So we'll start off with having a look at your biceps tendon. So you'll be able to see on the screen that your biceps tendon sits nicely within the bicipital groove. That's it, great. So quite happy, I cannot see any tears in that area. You could appreciate your musculature as well, with your biceps and deltoid muscle being very well developed. Let's go and see one of the most often injured muscle within the shoulder region, called the supraspinatus. You could see that there is a little bit of irregularity there where the tendon inserts into the greater tuberosity. And I see a little bit of fluid there as well, so there is a potential sign of injury in this region, which is very common. It does look like more like something which we call the partial thickness there, which can stem from a lot of repetitive activities which you do, obviously pulling and lifting. That's quite commonly.
So what we're looking at is a partial thickness tear of the rotator cuff tendon, specifically the supraspinatus, which is this tendon that comes out here. Its main job is to raise the arm up overhead, but also plays a role in rotating that shoulder as well. And what can happen is as the tendon slides underneath this bony prominence called the acromion, it can start to rub a little bit. And the protective layer that sits between the tendon and the bone called the bursa can subsequently become a bit irritated too. So what we've got in this shoulder is a partial tear of the insertion, the attachment of that supraspinatus, and some bursitis, so irritation of that lubricating and protective layer to go with it, and the two go hand in hand. And then what we end up with is this catch-22 of, because everything's a bit swollen and it has to pass through a space of a certain size, it then rubs, and because it rubs, the body keeps it swollen, and that's a very tricky cycle to break. It can be made worse by bony spurs coming off of this bony prominence, the acromion, but there's no evidence of that in this case, so that makes things a little bit less complicated. And there's lots of different ways of treating that inflammation, that swelling, but the main thing for the tear will be the rehab program back to activity.
The question now is, what can I do with a grade 2 tear of a rotator cuff? And of course, you can always do something. So the most important thing is getting that diagnosis, and I'm off to do some Pilates. And I think I'm a big fan of Pilates for any sport, but especially for sailing, because it puts such hard demands on the spine, and that's whether you're, strapped in a harness, if you're trapezing, if you're hiking, whatever you're doing. It's not only about protecting your spine and preventing injury, but also I genuinely believe it makes you go faster. So I've been very lucky to be part of the Sporting Champions scheme here, and the Weymouth and Portland Sailing Academy is a fantastic place to sail. And I've also got the Weymouth swimming pool and gym walking distance from my house, so there's really no excuse for me not to go. Now actually, sometimes people value things more when they pay for them, but I think very good that I get this for free, and the fact it's walking distance and it's convenient and it's time efficient. That I often, when I do a gym session, I would jog here, because that's my warm up, and then I'm ready to go. Only problem, can't actually take you in because of their sort of child protection policies and filming policies, but I'll leave you there and hopefully join you on the show, and I'll keep you updated. But remember, you only have one body, so take good care of it.
Well, there's a day in the life.
Yeah.
A day in the life, and you go ahead and use your switch. Julia, we're going to have to send you to the clinic. Take one of your lozenges.
I will.
That was very interesting, and you can always tell when the gang are focused on a video because the comments stop.
Yes, they stop, and everybody's looking, right.
And they're looking at it and listening to it. Thank you, John. Very interesting. And somebody said they've had that surgery of the shoulder. Alan Long said, "Ooh, not fun, done that surgery." And we're all, John, I'm sorry, we're all getting old.
I know.
And John's getting a bit old too, obviously, and you start to feel these things. I will tell you, I don't think Mr. Dr. McIrvin is jealous. Stingray mentioned him in a comment. I talked to Andrew, and he is supposed to take the family skiing to France. I don't know if he's going, but he is in bed with a very serious lower back thing. He's got sailor's back. I hope I'm not talking out of school, Andrew, but he's got an L4, L5, which was my second surgery.
Mm.
Sailors and hockey players, lower back and knees, and in this case, shoulders, John. Take good care of yourself. And very, very interesting. Thank you.
Good to know.
Yeah, keep us posted, and I hope you are going to be fully recovered so you can get on with more yacht racing in your reasonably young life. You're not old like we are, Julia.
Mm-mm.
Although you said his hair is starting to look gray. Is that what you said?
I did.
You said. That's just because it's long.
Mm-hmm.
And mine, we adjust the camera so it doesn't look quite as gray as it really is.
I know, I gave up long ago.
That's John Emmett's book. It's not the new edition. It is, I don't know, this gentleman with whom he wrote it, Tim Davison, has had several iterations of this book. John's joined in now. And the latest edition is out, the Ilka book. You can get it from Fern Hurst Books, at least in the UK, if not on Amazon and wherever fine books are. I always wanted to say that. And wherever fine books are sold.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a copy of that book, and I am reading through it, the old laser sailor that I am, and enjoying it, Julia, very much indeed.
You won't find me in the gym.
We won't? But we'll find you watching John Emmett.
Yes.
And John Emmett Get to the Front of the Fleet, our Super Fozy and regular segment on here, which we appreciate very much indeed. We have another Bravo. This is our third Bravo Zulu, isn't it? I think our third Bravo Zulu today. We've outdone ourselves. And this to the World Match Racing Tour. Our good friend James Pleasance, I was on the horn with him this morning, in Bermuda Gold Cup, which has been moved even later so as not to conflict later in this year, so as not to conflict with the America's Cup. The Bermuda Gold Cup and the women's match racing event doublehander is the headline. Doubleheader, thank you. What did I say?
Hander.
Doublehander, thank you. Doubleheader. That's Julia. Fantastic. Good eye. And this is their press release today. The Royal Bermuda Yacht Club is delighted to announce the 72nd edition of the Bermuda Gold Cup, a world championship stage of the World Match Racing Tour, to be held October 28th to November 3rd, as I said, a little later than usual, on Hamilton Harbor. And for the first time ever, the event will also run concurrently with a new Women's World Match Racing Tour event during the same week.
So that'll be good.
So how appropriate that this is being announced also on International Women's Day, and it's a cool development. The Gold Cup returned to the World Match Racing Tour last year, as you will recall. We covered it extensively, and ultimately saw Sweden's Yanni Berensson and his team raise the King Edward VII Gold Cup for the third time. Planning the dates for this year's event has considered the much-anticipated 37th America's Cup, scheduled. Did you like that? Scheduled. I've been talking to too many Brits today. To conclude by October 20th, 2024. Now, there is a picture of one of the females who participated last year in the Gold Cup. That is Celia Willison from New Zealand and her Edge team. And this is an interesting development because in a first-of-its-kind event in Bermuda, Royal Bermuda Yacht Club will this year take on the challenge of running both the Bermuda Gold Cup and this new women's match racing event on the same race course during the week-long spectacle. In order to host two events, the Bermuda Gold Cup format will be 10 teams in a single group. The women's event will invite 8 of the world's top female match racing sailors and will be the first ever women's sailing regatta in Bermuda to also award prize money. And James tells me this morning he thinks that prize money is going to be the same as the men's, which is substantial in terms of, in our sport.
That's great.
So there's actually going to be 18 teams, 10 open mixed teams, and 8 women's teams. They're going to use the boats and mix them back and forth somehow, some way. And the interesting question I asked James, well, what can women sail in both the open and also in the women's only division? And he said, well, we'll see what the entries are like, and we're still to sort that out. So it is an interesting development, and I think very good for women's match racing. This is the winner of last year's Women's World Match Racing Tour, Anna Östling, who we also covered that event. It was in Denmark, in Copenhagen, wasn't it? Anna's Swedish team, her team Wings, the Wings team.
They were here too.
They were here. We had a dinner with them, didn't we, over at the past Commodore Bruce Monroe and the late, great Lenny Monroe's home. Didn't the two of us were invited over there to a special dinner. Quote, we are delighted RBYC has agreed to add a new Women's World Match Racing Tour event to the Bermuda Gold Cup this year, added the esteemed executive director, James Pleasance. And Super Fozy. Quote, our key mission for the women's WMRT is to expand and promote opportunities for competitive women sailing at the highest level, and having a new event in such an iconic venue like Bermuda is doing just that.
And it will.
18 total teams, 6 days. They've added a day to the event as well. And he thinks, he hopes, he says they're expecting to have, James, equal prize money. So Bravo Zulu all around, and Bravo Zulu especially to their 2023 Women's World Match Racing Tour winners, and also won the KDY match racing event, Anna Östling from KDY, meaning the Royal Danish Yacht Club. Anna Östling of Sweden, and pictured from left to right because we like to identify sailors, and skipper and crew. That's Anna on the far left, Anna Östling, Anna Holmdahl second from the left, then Jenny Axhede, then Linnea Vanegren, then Marie Grusmark, and finally that photo was taken by Annika Karlunger for sailing.pics. So good stuff. Good stuff. Bravo Zulu all around, and thank you, James Pleasance, for filling me in and getting that to me early this morning so we could include it in today's show, which is, after all, in honor of International Women's Day.
He does such a good job with that.
He really does. And speaking of super fine international sailors, Olympians, two-time Olympian from this country, we've been telling you about J.J. Fetter down in San Diego, who sent a 3-page letter to U.S. Sailing, bless her heart, and congratulations, and thank you, J.J. It was a terrific letter. I have it. She's asked me not to put it on, and I won't. I always honor friends' requests. But she has called for the resignation of anyone who voted for this Crutonic lawsuit by U.S. Sailing against America One Racing. And many other people are doing the same thing, including another super fozy, Bill Canfield, president, or I'm not sure if he's current president or former president of the U.S. Virgin Islands Sailing Association, pictured here with his famous son Taylor and Bill Canfield. And Bill wrote an article that appeared last night in Scuttlebutt. Bill Canfield, past president, so he's past president of the Virgin Islands Sailing Association and longtime regatta director, a stalwart New York Yacht Club member, and on their race committee all summer in Newport, Rhode Island, and beyond. He has listened to all the experts, athletes, coaches, and pundits as they voice their strong opinions on the current state of U.S. Olympic sailing program, with almost total agreement on a few points, some positive but mostly negative. Canfield summarizes the situation, which I shall do now on his behalf, reading his piece, because I think it's important for everybody to understand what a terrible situation this is. Bill says, U.S. Sailing has failed in all areas, and the executive director, meaning the CEO, needs to be replaced along with any leadership that voted to put this frivolous lawsuit against America One in place. The lawsuit should be dropped immediately, as nothing positive will be gained and membership will not be affected when next year's dues are billed. I don't know what that quite means, because it's being paid for by members' dues, or so one hears. Despite all the negatives, Paul Caird and Bill Rue proved there is money out there on both corporate side and from individuals if there is confidence in the leadership of the U.S. Olympic Sailing Program. They raised something, at least on paper, something like $18 million. Just before they resigned or were forced out, depending upon who you believe. Despite all the negatives, we have an outside shot at a few medals at Paris 2028. Indeed, we do, if luck and conditions go our way. Bringing home 2 medals this time around would be a great kickoff to our new look. The LA 2028 Olympics are just over 50 months away, 4 years, and he
doesn't mean Paris 2028.
No, he means the LA 20, because they're Paris 2028. No. What?
Paris 20.
No, he means that LA Olympics are 50 months away, 4 years, but Paris is 6 months, less than 6 months away. The LA 2028 Olympics are just over 50 months away, and we know Americans never give up, so let's not waste a minute bringing change to leadership at U.S. Sailing. Tomorrow is a day too late. We know we have good coaches, and extra help on the coaching side is available from around the world, John Emmett. Let's go get it. U.S. Sailing's role until their culture changes should only be administrative and limited to organizing. They should even do that. Let the Olympic Committee do all of that, Bill. Hosting regattas and Olympic trials, yes. America One should be contracted to handle athlete training, sourcing, coaching, and development for the next 5 years. Who else is out there right now to take this on? Spot on, Bill. College sailing is not going to change, but as an entity, it should be involved in our Olympic effort, providing support for any sailor who makes All-American and is the right size and shape for an Olympic class. Good point, Bill. Training facilities should, an excellent point. Training facilities should be created. Yes. In the Los Angeles area, Long Beach has offered for years now to do this for all Olympic classes, with all training moved to this arena, augmented by European regattas. Yes, Bill. All the top current Olympic hopefuls who are not aging out should be offered monthly stipends to do another 4 years. If nothing else, all their knowledge will be available to newcomers and not be lost. Everything possible should be done to kick off a new beginning and look for the Olympic sailing team, from logo to uniforms, and only push the positive. We can't move forward by lamenting our recent past, or even longer, failures. Have yacht clubs and sailing centers opened their doors
to these athletes?
To these athletes. Have, not have they, it's not a question. Have yacht clubs and sailing centers opened their doors? Insist that yacht clubs and sailing centers open their doors to these athletes and offer small stipends for membership talks or chats with junior sailors. And he concludes by saying, if done quickly and in a positive, unifying way, all these changes could be a huge fundraising opportunity. However, the big stumbling block to this, or any new initiative, will be U.S. sailing, U.S. flailing. Some call it U.S. failing. The current membership will need to drive these changes and work hard to find new leadership to fill the necessary roles. In the absence of rapid action by U.S. sailing, the program can anticipate further failure, God forbid, at the LA 2020 Olympics. Bill Canfield, our superfos, he's been on the show any number of times. He was a senior serious guy within ISAF, World Sailing, IYRU. Before that, I've known him since forever. Former president of the U.S. Virgin Islands Sailing Association, past commodore of the St. Thomas Yacht Club, and that was his article that appeared in today's Dateline in Scuttlebutt. It appears here in the U.S. last night. There are people who are the right people. They're waiting to be asked who will take over as president, take over as CEO, and to replace those on the board who haven't already left, and some have. I'm not going to say whom. I have the letters of resignation, but that situation is changing as well. And I can also report that 2 senior members of the staff have also announced that they are leaving. Not the CEO, sadly. He's got to go, and he will eventually. Whether he gets pushed out or quits because he comes to his senses remains to be seen. Now, as if that were not enough, this came across my email this morning to me saying, I think my membership has lapsed. I'm certainly not going to renew it if it hasn't. Crew meetings, U.S. sailing crew meetings, and there's one coming up on March. What the hell is a crew meeting? March 26th. U.S. Sailing, the sport's national governing body, is proud to return with another quarterly virtual office hour session called Crew Meetings, inviting U.S. Sailing members and staff leaders to meet and discuss the latest topics in sailing. Wonderful. Wonderful, Julia. Yeah, you can't make this stuff up. On Tuesday, March 26th, from 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time, the 4th crew meeting will be a special meeting to provide your thoughts on topics and you'd like covered at U.S. Sailing's Leadership Forum next year in 2025. You got to be, Julia, you can't make this up. Now, what is the Leadership Forum? It's U.S. Sailing's according to them, U.S. Sailing's flagship event serves as a platform that unites leaders across various sectors of our sport. Attendees include individuals involved in sail training and education, yacht club and sailing organization management, racing, encompassing both one design and handicap classes, as well as race officials and industry professionals. Over 3 days, leaders and innovators in the sport assemble for an all-inclusive learning and networking experience, including over 45 breakout sessions, 5 keynote speeches from inspiring figures, and over 30 sponsors and exhibitors for attendees to sample. You know what this is? it's a money-making or an attempt to make money in a convention, a mini convention for U.S. sailing. They don't make decisions there. They're going to have this crew meeting, which is a pure PR sop, to get people to tell them what they think they want to hear talked about at next year's leadership forum. And I say again, when I ran the place, and others since me and before me, back in the 80s, as Bill Canfield will attest, and many others of you will as well, we had 2 major meetings a year where the board met in public, or the committees met, including the Olympic Committee, in public. People could walk into the back of the hall, could stand up, put their hand up, and be addressed and have their concerns heard around, by the members around the table, whether committees or the board. They could watch the votes being taken. They could lobby people. Everybody could. You talk to people in the bar, in the hallways, in the meeting room. And then you went back and reported, as Clark Chapin did, and still does, and many others on here.
Yes.
For years, you'd go back and you'd say, okay, here's what they just did. I was there in the meeting, and this is what they decided, and this is what I said. I agreed with it or I didn't. Fantastic stuff. Not this. This is a complete and utter sop. In fact, I'm sitting here shaking my head. Hollywood couldn't script this inanity, Julia.
Oh, they could.
And I used inanity, not insanity, because it's not insane. These people are cognizant, unlike some other people in leadership roles in this country. I'm not going to say it.
No.
Inanity. Now, I had to go look it up to be sure I was using the right word. Inanity, a nonsensical remark or action. They utter whatever inanities will get them elected. Lack of sense or meaning, silliness. He commented on the breathtaking inanity, I've just done that, of the board's decision. And I did not go to Stanford, Julia. I went to a public school. I promised you Stanford, Michigan would be in this. I went to I'm a simple country boy from Michigan, but I did know the word inanity from Poli-Sci 101 in 1971. And regardless, the president, Mr. President, it's time to lead your board to resign. He's got a heart of gold. I know him not well. He's from the Bay Area here. He's even a member, Julia, of St. Francis
He is.
Yacht Club.
And he's known for some wonderful things.
As we're reminded, he's helped rescue people the day that Larry Klein died out here in the Big Boat Series, and he rescued some others so that they didn't drown and die. But, what have you done for me lately besides screw up U.S. sailing and the Olympic program?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to be harsh, but that's the case. Yeah. And this gentleman, the CEO, the non-sailing CEO, has got to go. And as Bill Canfield said, not tomorrow, not today, yesterday. They got to go. And hopefully they will. And that's my rant about U.S. sailing. Any comments before we move forward? I had a friend at uni with a nickname Inanny. Inanny. John Emmett. Make him walk the plank. Yeah, follow the money. Clayton Embley is absolutely right. Follow the money. I am sure that his paycheck is, he's making close to $400,000, the CEO. Can you believe that?
Why doesn't he just donate that? That'll get the other off to a good
start. Why doesn't he just leave? If he just leaves, he can take his severance pay with him and be done with it. Anyway, the messages are rolling in. Gordon Smith is now watching St. Francis Yacht Club's Wednesday yachting luncheon, and it was ago. Chris Ray. I went over there for a minute, as you know, and our friend and Beach Street Yacht Club member and a fellow Michigander, good Michigan boy, Chris Ray, was the presenter, a photographer. He's been on this show.
Yes, he has.
Chris Ray did one of his.
He did. He's done a couple of shows.
With photographs of, we love, and people, our viewers love the photographers when we have them on, right? We're going to get Gilles Martin Raget on. Leave, throw him out, Graham Sweeney says. Indeed. 400. I'm not kidding, Ed Worley, $400,000. He's that, and it's north of that with benefits, and I've seen a spreadsheet, authoritative. Somebody sent me a spreadsheet. I have not published it, and I won't, because it was some disgruntled member of the staff, I assume. But regardless, that place needs a catharsis, Julia. There's a word from not Poli-Sci 101, but from Anatomy 101, baby.
I know.
A catharsis. They need a big enema, and then maybe all the BS will flow out of. Sorry, you want to give me a finger shake?
Yeah, enough.
Okay, enough. What happened, Julia, on this day in history, the 8th of March, 10 years ago today, 2014? Any idea? Here's a clue. Does that help? Does that help? From KL to Beijing was the idea. Does this help?
I was going to say it's a flight lost. Yeah.
Yeah, Malaysia, 370, flight 370. It was an international passenger flight operated by Malaysia Airlines, which I've flown happily, not since, but that disappeared from radar on March 8th, 2014, while flying from KL in Malaysia, obviously, up to its planned destination, Beijing, Capital International Airport in China. In China. The reason for its disappearance has not been determined. Yep, Ted Ryman, the plane went missing. John Emmett, look at that. He had a friend who had a ticket for that flight, but he got bumped off it. He still has the ticket. It's probably worth a fair bit. Fog Machine got it, and more. The disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 on the 8th of March with 239 people on board remains one of the most enduring and fascinating mysteries in aviation history, as you probably all know. I'm fascinated by it too, Julia, I have to admit. The aircraft disappeared over the South China Sea some 38 minutes after takeoff. Investigators were able to track pings with a satellite to a general crashing site in the Indian Ocean, or not. They're still not 100% sure about that. The search for the plane became the most costly in history. The Aussies got heavily involved in this out in Perth, and one of the most complex. It would continue for 3 years, but turned up no sign of the plane, although some debris from the aircraft washed ashore from the Indian Ocean during 2015 and 2016. I mean, way over in the Western Indian Ocean, right? In any event, it was on this day, 10 years ago today. Hard to believe how time flies. That Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 with 239 souls on board lost contact and disappeared. Man, the theories.
Oh, yeah.
Black hole. Remember when Tucker Carlson, who I'm a fan, I otherwise like him, notwithstanding he went to St. George's where I used to coach hockey, not that I knew him there, said, oh, maybe it was gobbled up by a black hole. That was one of the more wild ones. Yeah, did John Ted Ryman's wanting to know if his friend with a ticket on that flight get a refund. They say he was a non-sailing pilot Stingray.
Oh, I think you're right, anyway. Yeah.
Well, you know, the latest theory, there's a book is out, and the guy thinks that the pilot, obviously the pilot had he had something going on, not the co-pilot. He sent the co-pilot to go check down in the electronics bay, and that guy was locked out of the cabin by all accounts. Everybody seems to think that happened. But the pilot now is alone up in the cockpit, and that guy had a simulator in his home, and they found on the simulator simulations of this flight path and this thing out over the ocean and turning left or turning right or maybe going to Diego Garcia. You ever been to Diego Garcia?
Over it.
Over it. The American base in the Indian Ocean. And the latest theory is that he was going to fly the plane out there and had enough fuel to do it, apparently. Get all the way to Beijing, get the DG, land it, get rid of the passengers, and then he had a manifesto that he was going to read. And it was anti-Malaysian government, it was anti-whatever was going on in Malaysia and the pilots union and so on. And as a result of all that, the Malaysian government has they've now figured this out, and they've suppressed the whole thing and tried to say, oh, no, he flew it into the southern Indian Ocean, and it's down off of Australia someplace, not in the Mariana Trench, but someplace very deep indeed. So who knows, Julia, what happened 10 years ago?
The shadow
today?
knows.
The shadow? Maybe even the shadow doesn't know. Speaking of Bravo Zulus, we didn't formally give one here, but the 4th through the 10th, that goes on for a couple more days in Lanzarote, another one of these cool venues, island venues, as I said in the show notes at the top of the show. Now, do you know where Lanzarote is?
Yes.
It's in the Canary Islands. It's a Spanish island. It's the northeasternmost island in the Canary Islands. It's right there, northeasternmost. And I submit to you once again that one.
Arrecife, I know.
Have you been?
Yeah.
Arrecife, yeah. And I submit to you that it is on islands that make the greatest sailing venues, including in Lanzarote, Spain. Locally is a Spanish, the local pronunciation, Lanzarote, is a Spanish island, the easternmost of the Canary Islands in the Atlantic Ocean, 125 Ks, 80 miles off the north coast of Africa, and fully 1,000 Ks from the Iberian Peninsula, yada, yada, yada. So it's part of that, and that is where any number of sailing events have taken place over the years. In fact, Emmett was just down there, wasn't he? Including this week's 2024 49er and 49er FX, just abbreviated to the FX, the men's and the women's skiffs, Olympic skiffs, where they have 256 athletes, 128 boats, 76 49er teams, fully 52 FX teams, 25 countries in the FX, and 29 in the 49er.
Wow, big.
So
but it is a great place to do it.
A big event and a great place to do it.
Lanzarote has been our home during the whole winter for us, and then obviously being able to celebrate the World Championships in the 49er and the FX class here in Playa Blanca in Marina Rubicon has been for us one of the greatest news. No, it's the best training and sailing location for Olympic classes in winter, I would say, in Europe at least. And yeah, for us it's a true honor and a true privilege to be able to train here, but not only train here, but also compete here in what we call home waters for us now. Being at home in our country obviously makes things more easy. Being here with our team, with Flo, with Alvaro, spending time in a place that we like, that we can do also cross sports and everything is amazing. We are super lucky to be able to spend time here and train and do what we do.
Okay, so there's a couple days left. Today they are into not the medal day, which I think is Sunday, and I have they are running live. These videos of live coverage of the day's racing are 3 to 4 hours long. This is from day 4, which is today. Today, Friday. Tomorrow's day 5, and then Sunday, day 6 is the medal race and the final day. They haven't done but not only are they're running this full video live coverage, as I say, 2 to 3 plus hours of the racing. They're also then cutting together a couple minute summary of the day's racing. I don't have a day 4 summary yet, at least I didn't before we went to air, but I have the day 3 summary, which gives you a taste, a flavor for how cool this event is, how good the class is, and how good the venue is.
It's day 3 of the Worlds here in Marina Rubicon in the south of Lanzarote, and it's an absolutely critical day, being the final day of qualifying, when the sailors work hard to try and break into the top 25 for Gold Fleet, or if they don't manage that, relegated to silver. So with 3 races on the cards for the men, 4 for the women in the FX, let's go to the race committee for the weather forecast.
Thanks, Sandy. We are here in Papagayo area. We have now wind breathing from 8 to 14 knots and shifty from 300 to 330, more or less.
It was a long day on the water in big swell and tricky northerly breezes rolling off the lunar mountainscape of Lanzarote. At the end of 4 FX races for the women, reigning world champions from Sweden, Vilma Bobeck and Rebecca Netzler, took some brave tactical decisions and have moved into the overall lead ahead of their Dutch rivals, Adele van Aanholt and Annette Doets. Later in the afternoon, the men's 49er groups completed their final 3 qualifying races. As they arrived back ashore in Marina Rubicon, there was a huge range of emotions for men and women alike as they checked the scoreboard to see where they had finished up. 25th place or higher would mean elevation to Gold Fleet. Any lower and they would be relegated to silver, and in some cases, the end of their Olympic dreams. Rob Dixon and Sean Wadilove had squeaked into Gold Fleet in 25th place, although with a few protests to be heard, it was too soon for Irish celebrations.
Yeah, I think we're 25th at the moment, so in Gold Fleet they are, but as you know, a lot of uncontrollables like protests and stuff from other boats that might change that, but for now, yeah, you know, we can just see what happens.
Even tougher though for the other Irish team, Schaefer Guilfoyle and Johnny Durkin, who just missed the cut in a heartbreaking 27th place.
Yeah, I mean, I guess people put in a pretty long winter of training and work hard, and obviously today's the day that the cuts happen. So obviously people are going to be disappointed missing the cut like us, and I can definitely relate to it. Not at tears just yet, but yeah, it can be pretty tough, pretty brutal, but it's sport at the end of the day. So no, I don't think you question it. If you're questioning it after a day like this, I think you need to look at yourself a bit. You need to know your why, and you know, you're out here to try and get the best out of yourself, and I want to measure myself against the best in the world, and you know, today we weren't up to that standard, and I'm okay with that, and just need to improve and keep at it.
No reason for sadness in the French camp, however. Erwan Fischer and Clément Picard continue their charge at the top of the rankings, now 3 points in front of world champions Bart Lambriux and Floris van der Berken. So at the end of a dramatic 3 days and the end of the qualifying phase, we move into Gold Fleet for the final 3 days of the World Championships in Marina Rubicon.
Okay, nice video. Nice job by Andy Rice. I felt sorry for the Irish sailor. What's it, Johnny Durkin? What was his name? He looked like he was on the verge of tears.
Oh, yes, but
gave the interview.
Yeah.
But?
No, I know, and he spent half his life
pursuing
it and working hard.
Olympic dreams, indeed. And again, you can see the comments go to zero. I mean, Rob Fry, who's thinking about his son, and our super Fozy as well, very popular Fozy, Leo Takahashi, who's no longer sailing in the 49ers because he's sailing in the 40, well, in Sail GP.
Sail GP, yeah.
And we'll see if he's going to sail in the America's Cup, too, because he's a hell of a good sailor and a good match racer and a former Gov Cup alum. Leo Takahashi is Andy Rice, who was so prolific in Seahorse magazine. Yes, he's a writer, Stingray. He also did that 470 video, I think, at their Worlds that wrapped last weekend. So he must have gone from there, from the 470 Worlds in Palma. I think they were in Palma, right? Over to Lanzarote. And it is tough and expensive to get there a bit. But you see the Europeans, a lot of them are training down there for the whole winter. Good stuff. Bravo Zulu to the 49er class. By the way, if you want to follow that, they are doing a live tracker. They're doing live the last 3 race days, as I said. And the class is doing a great job. And thanks Ben Remacher, who's their class manager, lives up in Vancouver, who we're going to have, we hoped, on today's show. And then he had a dinner that he couldn't move. So we'll get him on soon to give us a first-hand update in this terrific skiff class, the 49er and the 49er FX. Thanks again, Ben, for your help putting that segment together. Any other comments? Yeah, the fog machine. Lance Burke is reminding us that the J.J. Giltonen champs are also live. That's racing, and the Sangmeister said, hey, you ought to grab some of that stuff. I looked at the videos this morning, Julia. Mm-hmm. Cool stuff down there in Australia. You've seen that, the right. 18-footer racing on
yes,
on
which
Sydney
is really
Harbor.
fun. Yeah,
and it is fun. And they don't do they don't do summary highlight videos. They do live videos, which go on for a long time. and great coverage. It's great racing. It's terrific stuff. And Fog Machine, a.k.a. Lance Burke, a.k.a. Amadeus, says that they will be live again tonight at 6 o'clock our time in Sydney Harbor. And they are picturesque. It's great stuff.
Yeah.
Sydney Harbor 18s. That gets us to the last leg. Now, I told you it was going to be a good long show with lots of video. And thanks, Stingray, for turning me on to this video earlier today. And it's about 7 minutes long, so it's a little longer than we normally play, but it is about Alinghi Red Bull Racing and their history and involvement, really their legacy in the America's Cup, starting from back in 03 and coming, or before even, 01, 03, and running right up to today in Barcelona. And apropos, in honor of the fact that it looks like they're the first ones to splash an AC 75, 72 sailed here in San Francisco, 75. Their new boat apparently now is in Barcelona. Remember, each team can only build one boat.
Mm-hmm.
Their 75, by all accounts, is in Barcelona, and it's in the shed getting worked up, and it's about to get splashed. And it looks like they'll be the first ones in the water.
Super.
The Italians' boat, I think, is in Cagliari. I'm not 100% sure, but their new boat is down in Cagliari in Sardinia, as the Italians would say, Sardinia. And we'll see when they splash their boat. But this video, in honor of the history and tradition, the legacy of the Swiss team, Alinghi Red Bull Racing. Enjoy. The last leg.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to work.
Swiss are famous for chocolate.
Chocolate and cheese.
Cheese.
Chocolate? Cheese? I don't know, I haven't tried it.
Chocolate, cows, mountains.
Mountains, soft powder, snowboarding.
Snow.
Snow and mountains, yeah.
Switzerland is famous for many things. I guess chocolate and cheese shouldn't be the answer I give you.
We're famous for our cheese and chocolate, and I have to be honest, I bring it everywhere.
Cheese, chocolate, cheese, chocolate.
Chocolate and watches maybe for a lot of people, but as well for the detail we have to things.
Chocolate? No?
Chocolate? No. Technology.
Chocolate, cheese, clever people, I would say.
Technology, innovation, and precision. So this is what we got here.
Cheese. And winning the America's Cup.
Well, they won the America's Cup for the first attempt in 2003. So, yeah, one of the more famous sailing nations, I would say.
Switzerland is famous for sailing, for sure. Switzerland is famous for all the good stuff, the chocolate, the cheese, the watches and stuff, but most important, defending the cup and winning the cup.
Switzerland is famous for chocolate, watch, and sailing team.
The Swiss are going to be the most famous sailing team in the world. Yeah.
Why the Swiss? Because we are used to days like this, you know, with the cold and difficult condition.
I think Switzerland is really good at sailing because we have many lakes that are really tricky to sail on, a really shifty condition, light and sometimes stormy. And the people try to get advantage of all the little creek along the lake.
They're good because they've been having a lot of tradition in sailing in the lakes.
Because of all the lake sailing that they do.
I would say we're good in shifty conditions, and that's because we sail on the lakes at home in Switzerland.
Sailing on the lakes, it's tricky. It requires lots of skills.
We have young guys that started sailing on Lake Geneva and other lakes in Switzerland that are very good for foiling. So they're born with the flying in their blood, and we have these talents on our big boat now, so perfect.
We all start on the lake, and after we travel to sail always in the sea.
Yeah, I think, you know, a landlocked country like Switzerland, that to win the America's Cup twice just goes to show it's not about the sea, it's about the people.
Why? Because they are Swiss.
We have the best sea in the world.
We have many seas and many oceans.
Because we eat tons of cheese, and it helps to read the wave and the wind on the water. It's well famous.
It's also, they've got a good sense of humor and yeah, very, very professional, focused people to work with.
Yes, Swiss sailors are precise, they are hard-working, they have a good working culture.
We like to do the thing well. I think it's a common theme in Swiss people.
A Swiss person is someone that is looking ahead and for quality and always try to improve.
Pushing the innovation and trying a lot of stuff and look everywhere for different technology.
We train harder than the others. We like to win.
I would say we have a really good pathway created from the youth to the Olympics series, and great coach, and I think as well it's a passion for the sailors that they grow into sailing and enjoy. I think it's the most important thing is to enjoy that sport.
Sailing for me, it's just amazing.
It's my passion, I just love it.
Be able to represent Alinghi Red Bull Racing with the history of Alinghi and all the knowledge of Red Bull in sports in general. I'm really happy.
It's a dream. When I was younger, I was watching Alinghi winning the America's Cup, so now being able to represent Alinghi Red Bull Racing, the Youth America's Cup, is a dream come true.
I think back in the days we've been looking at Alinghi when they won the cup. It's something special.
Simply is a life goal.
Getting a chance to represent your own country, getting the chance to represent an America's Cup team is it's a lot of responsibilities. It's amazing, it's incredible the amount of respect we have into each sailor here in the team. It just means a lot. Confidence, trust. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
The Alinghi generation built up a generation of sailors, of good sailors.
15 years ago, there was one team called Alinghi that won the America's Cup and made all these young people burn of sailing, and now they are the best sailor in the world.
Yeah, I agree with Stingray. It was a fantastic video. Every minute of that 7+ minute video I enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Stingray, for turning us on to that. Julia, what do you think of when you think of Switzerland?
Garda.
Lake Garda. Lago di Como, Lago di Garda.
Yeah.
Of course, Meg went to college, as you know, in Lugano, Switzerland, which is Ticino, the southern part of Switzerland. Suiza. So we used to fly over from when we were living in Spain, fly over to Milano, rent a car, drive. It was only an hour, but beautiful. Drive up through.
Yeah.
No problem at the border. Go up, visit her. And I'm a proud member and founding member and life member of a yacht club in Suiza.
Yeah.
And what I think of Switzerland, I agree with Ed Worley, quality and precision and cleanliness.
Yes.
And Joe Holtzman will remind us that Switzerland, have stayed out of wars for what, 1,000 years?
Forever.
Forever, right?
And every household has a trained marksman.
And they have the largest defense force in the world. Nobody is going to
Right.
fudge. They might make fudge and chocolate, but no one's going to fudge with Switzerland.
No.
Because they'd get, they have the largest defense force.
Every household has.
Well, by law.
Yes.
You
by
got to have
law.
a gun and you got to be trained.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah. Clark Chapin says, cheese, chocolate, and shooting apples off the head of your dependents. Sorry, it's tacky. Lots of great comments. Julie, a good time to remind us to go back and...
Yes.
Yes.
Read the comments.
Indeed.
Because you've missed some of them, I guarantee. And that's part of what makes this program interesting.
Indeed. Thank you, Stingray, for turning us on to that video, turning me on to that video, and I'm glad to put it in, which gets us to Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. And I have a late-breaking cartoon that was sent in by Vice Commodore Claire Harrington, which I'm going to use here at the end of this segment.
Oh, good.
So stay tuned for that as we get to WTF for today, fixing a boo-boo as a kid, and fixing a boo-boo as an adult. Okay, the drinking show with a sailing habit. Thank you, Ed Worley, for that. I had to put that in. I don't know why everybody sends me banjo jokes, Julia.
Yes.
Why do people send in banjo
because
jokes?
you play the banjo.
Denise Peterson, Ed Worley, and many others, Stingray, send in banjo jokes. My banjo made it. The poor guy with his back on the tree. What's wrong with a banjo?
He's going to have to listen to it for the next 40 years.
I get the cartoon, but what's wrong with listening to the banjo? I'd rather have one than not. You could sing You Are My Sunshine on the island. And finally, this, who else but Ted Ryman would send this in. He said this is in honor of International Women's Day, and only Ryman would send, he the big motorcycle guy, he's got, he loves his Harleys, he loves his women, and I guess he loves his JD too, his bourbon. But if I may, Commodore Harrington sent this in. I'm sure she knows I'm going to use it. But in honor of Lessons in Womanhood, in honor of Internet, can you see that? Does it fuck us okay? Yeah. Lessons in Womanhood, you are only helpless while your nail polish is wet. Even then, you could pull a trigger if you had to.
Absolutely.
Claire Harrington, Vice Commodore Claire Harrington of the New York Yacht Club. Good one, indeed. Okay, Julia, that gets us to the finish line, and your witness.
Yes. Lots of things to share. Like, follow, and share. Push the button.
Yeah, and comments are welcome, even in replay. We leave them open, as the regulars on here will know. If you're watching in replay, you leave your comments. We do watch them, and just remember the golden, what'd they say in Star Trek? The prime directive. No name calling. They didn't say this on Star Trek. That's our prime directive. No name calling, no personal attacks, no coarse language. Gordon Smith says, that was funny, Claire. Clayton Embley, our bourbon expert, our Fosey bourbon expert, says Jack Daniels is made in that state down south. It's not bourbon. In other words, if it's not made in Kentucky, it's not bourbon. It's made in Tennessee. Great and funny program. Thank you, Joe Holtzman. Happy time change to all of you. Indeed, Blake Middleton and the rest of you. Thank you to all the Fosey who keep us on the air with a contribution of a few bucks or more a month.
Absolutely.
Become a patron, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. And thanks also to all who gave us media, whether it be audio, images, or video for today. Julia, final thoughts?
Always amazed at the breadth and scope of sailing.
Of our beloved sport.
Yeah.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Thank you to you, Julia, too, for all you do to keep us here on the air, as Amadeus, as Fog Machine knows, and others over at St. Francis. Daylight savings time, just a reminder. On Sunday, the U.S. and beyond, we spring forward. So next, this picture, I like this picture. I should start using this as our cover photo. This from the Fuzzy Fosey. Rick Bannerow took that photo, and it got the sun in there, which reminded me of daylight saving time. So I used it. And remember, our show next Tuesday is show 693. We got to figure out what we're going to do in 4 weeks' time for show 700. But our show next Tuesday is still at 1300 Pacific, but that will be Pacific Daylight, hence 2000 UTC. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you have a great weekend and tune in on Tuesday. We'll see you then at 1300 PDT. In the meantime, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao. We're out.